this live here. Live if you're on Facebook, if you're listening to this on YouTube. I did do this live on Facebook, so check out my Facebook page if you want to get my little live pop-ins. But I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys in terms of thyroid health. And so I wanted to take some time to really focus on some key aspects of thyroid health and what we really need to understand about good thyroid health. And, if you're coming on with me, definitely go ahead and let me know who you are and where you're coming in from. I'm also going to take questions at the end of this broadcast as well. And so, the first thing about thyroid is you got to realize it isn't your thyroid's fault. So if you have a thyroid issue, metabolism issue, we commonly hear that that it's a problem with our thyroid, but it actually isn't. And so we know that thyroid hormone, number one, is told what to do by the brain. So the brain sends, particularly, there's a part of our brain called our hypothalamus. It's like the antenna of the body. It's constantly sensing the bloodstream to see kind of what's going on in the bloodstream, what our levels of hormones are, and then sensing what's happening in our environment, and then figuring out, hey, do we have the right amount of hormones for the environment that we're in? Like if it's a cold environment, we should boost up some thyroid hormones so we can warm ourselves up. If it's a warm environment, we might lower it so we can, so we're not as hot. And so basically, the hypothalamus then sends a signal. If it wants to increase thyroid hormone activity, it's going to send a signal called thyroid releasing hormone over to the pituitary gland, another part of our brain. Then the brain goes ahead, or the pituitary gland goes ahead and releases a hormone called thyroid stimulating hormone. So if you've had lab work done, you may have seen TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which then goes to the thyroid and tells the thyroid to release T4. So that's basically where the thyroid releases T4. Now, T4 is an inactive hormone. So 93% of what the thyroid releases is T4, inactive, meaning that it can't be used at the cell layer, so at the cell level. So it also releases 7% T3. We need T3 in order to get good thyroid hormone expression at the cell level. And so the body has got to convert inactive thyroid hormone, so T4, to active thyroid hormone. That's all done by the liver and the gut. And so if there's problems with the liver, there's problems with the gut. If we're under chronic stress or if we have chronic inflammation in our body, it's going to minimize our ability to convert T4 to T3. Also, all those things will cause, in a sense, a lot of noise between the brain and the thyroid, where the brain won't really be able to understand its environment well, because there'll be a lot of noise going on in the body when we're under chronic stress, when we've got liver issues, gut issues. And so we've got to get all of that addressed. The thyroid is an innocent bystander. So if we have autoimmune thyroid, for example, which most of the time there's some level of autoimmune component when I'm testing thyroid function. And so if you have something like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, it's a sign that the immune system's out of whack. So we've got to address the immune system. The thyroid is the innocent bystander that gets the blame, but isn't really the issue. And so I know a lot of you guys are coming on here. I'm going to go through some tips on supporting your thyroid, because it's one of the most common questions I'm getting. So we're going to really start to address that. Mariana, she says, hello. Hey, great to have you on with us, Mariana. Francis says, hi from Coclair, Ireland. Great to have you as well, coming over there from Ireland. My wife has Irish in her. I'm more French, German. Jockers actually is, according to my dad, it's between, it's kind of near the border of France and Germany is where that name, it actually meant yoke maker, believe it or not. And then I also have English. My mom's maiden name is Scott, so very English family there as well. But my wife, her maiden name was Fallon, which apparently is Irish. And so we got Alma coming in from San Marcos, California. Great to have you on. Timothy from Dayton, Texas. Let's see. We have got Karen coming in from British Columbia. We've got Tracy from Glenville, California. Great to have you guys on. We're diving into this topic of thyroid health. Number one thing we got to realize is it isn't our thyroid's fault. Our thyroid is the innocent bystander then unfortunately we're not getting good thyroid expression. In fact, when I do lab testing, a lot of times I see that the thyroid is producing enough hormone. We're just not getting good conversion of inactive thyroid hormone, T4, to active T3. And that's the focus here. And so what's one big tip we can do? Well, you guys know me well enough to know I have to lead with super hydrating our body and eating trace mineral rich foods. So hydration is super critical for healthy liver and gut. And remember, we talked about how we've got to convert T4 to T3. 60% of that conversion from inactive thyroid hormone to active T3 is done in the liver. 20% is done by the gut bacteria. And so we need to make sure that our liver is working well. One of the best things we can do to help the liver out is hydrate our body really well, really effectively. And, on our call or our Facebook Live that I did recently, I talked a lot about ways to hydrate your body: lemon water, apple cider vinegar water, different things like that. So you just got to make sure you're hydrating really well. I recommend a minimum half your body weight in ounces of water, minimum. If not more. And so you may even be able to get up near like 75% of your body weight in ounces of water, or even your full body weight. So like I weigh 160 pounds. So half my body weight in ounces of water would be 80 ounces. 160 pounds, what's half of that? 80. So 80 ounces of water. 75% would be 120 ounces. Okay. And I'm definitely consuming 120 to probably some days 160 ounces of good, clean water, or sometimes like diluted broth, like I even have right here. So this is just a little bit of broth that I diluted down with hot water. So it's like a mineral drink. And so I'm just really hydrating my body with that. I make my own lemonade a lot of times with either organic lemon juice or fresh squeezed lemon or lime. Put a little stevia in there. Tastes great. Maybe a little pinch of good high quality salt. So anyways, I'm usually doing things like that. So we got to hydrate throughout the day. That's going to help us with energy. It's going to help the liver. It's also going to help pull out a lot of bad bacteria in the gut. It's going to help sweep your gut out, help regulate your bowel movements. So super, super key there. And then let's talk a little bit about trace mineral rich foods. So the foods we consume really should have a lot of minerals. Minerals go unrecognized typically in our modern diet. But mineral-rich foods are going to be natural plant-based foods, particularly like dark green leafy vegetables. Sea vegetable is really good, like seaweed, kelp, things like that. Wild-caught fish. Sea vegetable is some of the most trace mineral-rich foods we can put in our body. Why? Because the sea is full of salts and minerals, right? So obviously the sea vegetables as well as the seafood. Good wild-caught fish is going to be very trace mineral rich. So what are some trace minerals? Things like selenium is a trace mineral. Super important for thyroid function, really important for T4 to T3 conversion. That's what we've been talking about. We need that active T3 to basically express itself at the cell layer for us to experience the benefits of thyroid hormone, which helps us run our metabolism, helps us burn fat for fuel, helps warm our body up, helps give us more energy, better brain function, helps move our bowels. Thyroid hormone, very important for bowel motility. In fact, some of those most common ways somebody might know they have a thyroid problem is they may have cold hands and feet or just feel cold often when other people in the room don't feel cold. So abnormal just sensations of coldness, oftentimes constipation, trouble losing weight, low energy, mental fatigue. So just not having drive and good mental function, oftentimes a thyroid issue. Also high cholesterol. So oftentimes I'll see people with real high cholesterol and it's actually a thyroid problem. It had nothing to do with eating cholesterol or eating fat. It had everything to do with the fact that their thyroid hormone wasn't working well, because thyroid hormone is really important for activating the LDL receptor. So the LDL receptor, if it's not activated, it's not going to clean LDL out of the bloodstream, and we're going to end up with higher LDL and oftentimes higher triglycerides too. So it's typically a thyroid issue. These are some of the most common symptoms. Also dry skin, hair, nails. So if you're noticing a lot of dryness in your skin, your hair, nails, very common thyroid issue. And also thinning along the outer third of the eyebrows, okay? This area right here, outer third of the eyebrows. If that's thinning, oftentimes associated, that's most commonly a thyroid problem. That's typically where I'm thinking in my head. Also just thinning of hair in general. So a lot of women are having hair thinning They're told it's their female hormones. Oftentimes a thyroid issue actually that's contributing to that. So what do we got to do? Obviously, number one, we talked about realize it isn't our thyroid's fault. Thyroid produces T4, but the brain has to tell the thyroid what to do. Number one, if the body is under a lot of stress, it's going to create a lot of noise. The brain may not be able to tell the thyroid, may ought to get its message across to the thyroid. It's kind of like if you were trying to listen to me and I had, really loud music playing, you wouldn't be able to hear me. It's the same thing. Brain trying to communicate to thyroid, a lot of noise going on because of stress. And we may not get that message. And then once the thyroid produces the hormone T4, inactive T4, it's got to be converted to the active thyroid hormone that the cells can use, which is T3. That takes place in the liver and the gut. Also, if we have things like estrogen dominance, for example, that can end up binding up. So we can end up increasing the amount of binding that takes place to active T3, which is a whole nother issue. And so again, that's typically related to liver issues as well, because the better our liver is, the less estrogen dominance kind of experiences we'll have. So realize it's not your thyroid's fault. It's an issue with your gut, your immune system, your liver, probably a combination of those things, and chronic stress that would cause a thyroid problem. And then we talked about super hydrating, eating trace mineral rich foods, hydrating really well, at least half our body weight in ounces of water, good, clean, filtered water daily. Also, we want to make sure we're eating trace mineral rich foods, sea vegetables, dark green leafy vegetables, seafood like wild caught fish, which is rich in selenium, zinc, also other trace minerals like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. These are all really powerful minerals, manganese, boron. These things are all important and they're in these natural foods. Other good foods that are rich in trace minerals, olives. So getting some good high quality olives, avocados are really, really good. Grass-fed butter, which is one of my favorites, really rich in trace minerals as well. So those are just some of the best foods, and I'll post an article later on best trace mineral rich foods, but grass-fed meat products can be really, really good. Lemons and limes we talked about. So lots of really good healthy foods that you guys probably hear me talk about a lot or see that in my content when you're reading or listening to videos. You'll see that. So let's see who else is on with us. Okay, Crystal says, coming in from Ackworth. Hey, Crystal. I'm in Ackworth as well. She says hypothyroid since the 90s. How much does this play in anxiety and cancer? That's a great question. Very much related, particularly to anxiety. Hypothyroid does not play as big a role in the development of cancer. However, whatever caused the issue with the thyroid, again, liver, gut issues, immune issues, would also be the underlying root cause of the cancer. So if there was toxicity that was affecting our immune system from functioning well, it can obviously contribute to both. So it definitely can play a role. Whatever the root causes has not been addressed, Crystal. Now, Crystal, you're in Ackworth. I want to give you some good news. I am actually, and those of you guys that are listening that are in the Atlanta area, I'm actually doing an advanced training at my clinic, Exodus Health Center, on healing your thyroid naturally. I help people all over the world with these kind of conditions. I'm going to do an advanced training. It's Saturday, March 3rd. So not tomorrow, but the week after that, 12 p.m. at noon, 12 p.m. And so if you're in Ackworth, no excuses, right? You've been dealing with hypothyroid since the 90s. Come out to the workshop Saturday, March 3rd, Exodus Health Center right in Kennesaw. So come on out. So if you're in the Atlanta area, love to have you guys for that workshop. If not, tune into my YouTube station, my Facebook, because I'm doing a lot of these trainings to help you guys out. So if you're not able to make it, if you're not living in our area, then tune in like you are right now. Okay, Shara's on. She's like, yep. I have that along with everything else, hair loss and hair not growing. Yeah, so very much associated with thyroid issues. So sorry to hear that, Shara. Hopefully this little training we're doing here is going to help you out a lot. Debbie's coming in from Tennessee. Let's see, we got Connie. She says, woot, woot, grass-fed butter, my fave. I'm with you there, Connie. Love my grass-fed butter. So make sure I put that on a lot of things. Now, if you have a major dairy sensitivity, okay, you eat dairy, you just feel awful, most of the time you're going to be able to handle grass-fed butter. Typically, what I will do with my hypothyroid patients, I'll put them on my autoimmune elimination program. So I have a specific program that I will put my thyroid patients on, which is typically my autoimmune elimination program if you're looking for that on my website. And on that plan, we'll take out butter in the beginning and we'll use ghee, which is clarified, fully clear of casein, whey, and lactose, which are the most common immunoreactive agents that we find in dairies, the protein components, the casein, the whey, and then also the lactose. And so if you're wondering, for hypothyroid, I don't recommend whey protein for that. So for a protein powder, I'd recommend something like our gut healing protein that you can find on my website, or our bone broth. One of our bone broth proteins would be much better for that. Okay, Tracy, she's there. She says, for someone who eats a poor diet daily and doesn't exercise, how do you start the journey to eating healthy and exercising without putting your body in shock? That's a really excellent question there, Tracy. I would recommend, number one, adding in. So if you're like, okay, how do I just start doing this without just shocking myself, mind, body, and emotionally, I would start adding in healthy foods. We talked a lot about the good healthy foods and also drinking a lot of water. So aim to drink half your body weight in ounces away from meals for the most part, because you don't want to dilute your enzymes and your stomach acid. And then start adding in foods. We talked about wild-caught fish, like wild-caught sockeye salmon. We talked about sea vegetables. So there's a great snack called sea snacks. So sea vegetable snacks are really good, healthy, trace mineral-rich food. We talked about dark green leafy vegetables. So things like kale, collard greens, broccoli, so all your cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, things like that. Cucumbers and celery are good. Berries can be really, really good. Coconut milk, coconut products are really, really good things to use. Coconut oil, olives, olive oil, stuff like that. So just start adding a lot of those. Avocados, add those in and you'll feel satiated to where you won't be craving these stuff you used to eat, the breads, the grains, things like that. So you'll end up eating a lot less of those. And over time, you'll just notice how good you feel when you're consuming these foods, and you'll have less and less desire to eat the other ones. So very, very good question. All right, let's see. Kate says, I don't have a spleen, so which types of food are better for a compromised immune system? I am sorry to hear that, Kate, that you don't have your spleen. What are some of the best foods for a compromised immune system? I will tell you, number one, I would say would be bone broth, believe it or not. And one of the reasons why is that bone broth is coming from not only the cartilage, but especially if you can make your own. I'm a huge fan of doing like bone marrow, for example. So like if I cook up a chicken, I will boil the bones, the carcass, and boil it up really good, like overnight, and then or just boil it for, let's say, 6 to 12 hours or so, and then let it cool down. And then the bones, you can actually chew into them. In fact, I did a Facebook Live a while back talking about this, but you can actually chew into them, and then you can actually suck out the bone marrow. And it sounds disgusting, but I mean, it doesn't taste bad, actually. It actually tastes good, to me at least. And my wife will do it too as well with me. And she's a little more picky than I am. But suck that out, and that's the good, high quality, like red blood cells, white blood cells, right in there. So that's really healthy for your immune system. Also organ meats, so grass-fed liver, things like that. Heart can be really, really good for the immune system. And then all the foods we've been talking about, these trace mineral rich foods, because they're rich in things like zinc and selenium. And zinc and selenium really help calm the immune system. So those are very, very important foods to be consuming on a regular basis. You can also do a lot of good herbs. So different herbs, things like oregano, basil, thyme. So those aromatic Mediterranean herbs that smell good and taste good can be really helpful. Garlic can be really helpful. Echinacea can be really helpful. So you can do like echinacea tea, things like that. So that can be really helpful for the immune system. There's different supplements like beta-1,3-D-glucan, medicinal mushrooms in general, whether it's cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi. A lot of these types of medicinal mushrooms can be super helpful for the immune system. So hopefully that gave you a lot of action steps there to take. All right, let's jump back into our topic. We just talked a little bit about super hydrating and eating trace mineral-rich foods. Well, next thing we're talking about is really reducing stress and focusing on good sleep. So important. We know, again, that stress creates this really loud noise to where the brain can't communicate well with the thyroid, and the thyroid can't communicate well, or at least it can't produce the hormone, the active T3 is not going to get into these cells. So our active form of thyroid hormone will be blunted by high stress hormone and not be able to impact the brain or I'm sorry, the cells, the different cells of our body, including the brain cells. So it's very important to keep stress under control and really, really focus on good sleep. So a lot of deep breathing habits, really trying to focus on good, deep breathing, regular morning ritual with prayer and meditation and gratitude. And I talked about that in my video on Monday. It's really having a good morning ritual, just so important. So you can check out the replay of that actually on my YouTube station. So just look me up on YouTube. You could see the replay if you missed that. But we talked about morning routine, really creating one where you're focusing on gratitude, prayer, really putting yourself in a high vibrational state, just a high level of peace and joy is so important, because when we go out throughout the day and we're going to have a lot of stress and things thrown at us. And also, if you're really not feeling good, I recommend taking more rest days, right? Work less, go part-time if you need to, because healing has got to be your full-time job if you're not doing well. So you need to make sure that that's a key focus, and then really good sleep habits. So I recommend trying to be in bed every hour before midnight, they say, is equivalent to 3 hours of regenerative sleep after midnight. So really trying to be in bed early, keeping your room as dark as possible, keeping your room cool. And so I've got articles and videos on, including I talked about this on my video on Monday. So again, you can find that on YouTube, all about good sleep. So super important. Let's see who else is on with us. Connie says, yes, wild-caught salmon, another favorite, healthy greens. Yeah, wild-caught salmon is really good for the body. In fact, a lot of people are concerned about mercury and other metals that are in fish, but actually, believe it or not, trace minerals help our body get rid of mercury and other heavy metals. In fact, trace minerals like selenium and zinc and things like that, they compete with heavy metals for binding spots in the body. And so the more sufficient our body is with trace minerals like selenium and zinc, the less likely that metals are going to be stored in our cells. So one of the first keys to preventing against heavy metal toxicity is making sure we're consuming foods that are rich in trace minerals. Wild-caught salmon is extremely rich in trace minerals. And on top of that, Connie, you think about wild-caught salmon, they swim upstream against the rapids. So they're going actually against the rapids, and they can jump up to 20 to 30 feet out of the water. Isn't that unbelievable? So they're able to produce a rampant amount of cellular energy, incredible amount of cellular energy. They've got robust mitochondria that produce all this energy that give them this incredible strength. And so when we consume them, we're taking in the same components that gave them that strength. Things like astaxanthin, which gives them the pink color that they get from red seaweed or red algae. So we're taking that in. High quality omega-3 fatty acids, key minerals like selenium and zinc, these things that we've been talking about, potassium, believe it or not, they even have in them, calcium, magnesium. So we're getting all those really key compounds into our system, and it's going to help us have more strength and energy, obviously supportive to the thyroid. Okay, Kate says, thank you. Absolutely, Kate. Debbie says, so informational. Thanks. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate the compliments. Always means a lot to me. This is really my calling in life, is to be a thought leader and really help educate and teach people how to regain their health. And I find it super fascinating. I love topics like this. And so, I've spent literally the last, I'm 36 now. So really, I caught the bug when I was 19. And I just said, you know what? I started training to become a personal trainer at that time. And I realized I love learning about exercise and nutrition. And back then, I barely knew anything. I certainly didn't know or teach what I'm teaching now. But so it's been 17 years that I have just been in love with learning everything about the body, how the body works, about superfood nutrition and really plant-based medicine, as well as functional medicine, and using really technology to help people get well naturally. So I appreciate you commenting on that. Let's see. Jerry says, hello from Maryland. Great to have you on there, Jerry. Let's see who else is on here. We've got Debbie. She says, in the 70s, they gave me a radiation pill. What do I need to do about it? So most likely the thyroid had, it was overacting. So she probably had, Debbie, you probably had very high thyroid hormone. So they wanted to kill it with a radiation pill. High thyroid, Graves' disease, is a autoimmune disease, just like Hashimoto's is, where the body's actually attacking the thyroid hormone, the immune system is. And so Graves, you overexpress thyroid hormone. In Hashimoto's, you underexpress it. And so what do you need to do? Well, all the things we're talking about, number one, and I'm going to get to number 4 here in just a second, but everything we've been talking about for sure. And of course, you're going to need thyroid hormone support. So whether that is through a prescription medication or a bioidentical, whether it's porcine based or bovine based, you're going to need that. And so it's obviously you're going to need to work with a practitioner that knows how to help you with that. So that's the unfortunate truth is you're always going to need some level of support. Okay. Let's see. And then so just so you guys know, if you don't have your thyroid, okay, you are going to definitely need thyroid support. We're going to talk about smart supplements here in a minute, but support your vitamin D levels. We know that one of the number one things that helps regulate your immune system is vitamin D. So I know we had a question earlier about things to help modulate or improve the immune response. I don't even know if I mentioned vitamin D, but yeah, getting out in the sun on a daily basis, getting high quality sun exposure, super, super, super important. In fact, it's sunny here in Georgia, I believe, looking out my window here. Very, very nice weather. And I'm about to take my dog out for a run today. So we're going to do some sprints on a hill. So it's an incline hill. We're going to do some sprints. She and I, my dog Bracy, 12-year-old dog, who, by the way, Bracy actually about 3 to 4 weeks ago started having seizures. She's 12 years old. All of a sudden started having seizures. Had 3 seizures in less than 24 hours. And so we were freaking out, but got her on a very strict, real food, ketogenic diet, doing, raw eggs and different things like that. And along with some key supplements. And also for a little while, we were doing hyperbaric oxygen with her. And she is like a puppy now. She is, has not had a seizure or any warning signs of a seizure, and she's doing absolutely amazing, doing fantastic. In fact, she's healthier now than she was before she started having those. So I'm taking her out for a run here with me in just a minute. But one of the things we gave her was cod liver oil, right? So really good high dose cod liver oil, which is rich in vitamin D, another really good food source of vitamin D. And in general, organ meats are a great source of vitamin D. So whether you're getting like grass-fed liver or you're doing cod liver oil, it's a good source of vitamin D. And for many of you guys, you're going to need a higher dose vitamin D. And so typically when we're doing higher dose vitamin D, I recommend doing vitamin D with vitamin K2. And so you'll see that on my store. It's got the right blends. The D3K2, our capsule form of D3K2 is kind of the optimal ratio for somebody that's looking for general health and wellness. If somebody has osteoporosis or plaquing, a lot of plaquing in their arteries, we have a formula that has a higher percentage of vitamin K2 in it, which is really good for sucking that calcium out and putting it out of the bones and into the bloodstream. So that's more of a liquid dropper form, Thorne D3K2. So you could check that out. But I typically am going to recommend around 1,000 international units per 25 pounds of body weight is around what I'm typically recommending. However, usually I'll tell people, hey, good maintenance dose, usually about 5,000 for adults. And then a supportive dose to boost your levels up is usually about 10,000, sometimes 20,000 international units. And it's ideally to take that with food, vitamin D, because it's a fat-soluble nutrient. You want to take it with a meal, and more so earlier in the day. For some people, it's a little bit more stimulating. So earlier in the day, breakfast or lunch, that's going to be a better time to take your vitamin D supplementation. And also, of course, in the summertime or when weather's nice, you can get out in the sun and get a lot of good high quality sun exposure on a regular basis as well. And if you do that, if you're sunbathing and, tanning yourself in a sense, you won't need to supplement. So when you tan your body, when you get I can't remember exactly the name of it. It's called the arrhythmic dose or something like that. But anyways, when you do that, you create a pinkening of your skin. If you're Caucasian, basically you're going to produce 10 to 20,000 IUs right there. So that's going to be a really good supportive dose. All right, Number 5, heal your gut and liver. We talked about gut and liver, so important for converting inactive T4 to active T3. So we've got to heal those areas. We've got to obviously make sure they're working well. So if our gut is really causing a lot of problems, then we need a gut healing protocol. You may need to work with a clinician on that, but also taking in some things, sometimes like L-glutamine can be helpful. And we've got a supplement called Gut Repair and Gut Healing Protein that can be helpful. Probiotics can oftentimes be helpful. That's a whole nother talk in itself, but we definitely want to heal our gut. And so eating the foods we've talked about are all easy on the gut for most people, and really good for the body. And then we've also got to allow the liver to cleanse and detoxify. So best foods for the liver, again, trace mineral rich foods, nutrient dense foods, things that we've talked about. Drinking a lot of water, we talked about that. At least half your body weight in ounces, if not more. Cleansing your body with the water. Lemon water is good. Apple cider vinegar water is good. Herbs like ginger, turmeric, milk thistle, nettle, dandelion, stuff like that, really good for liver. So definitely doing herbal teas can be helpful, and then certain supplements can also be very helpful for that as well. You can also do things like enemas, coffee enemas, stimulate liver detoxification. So that's another strategy. You can do fasting, just fasting in general can really help. Water fasting can really, really help the liver. And in fact, when you are eating more time restricted feeding, like a feeding window where you're doing maybe an 8 to 10 hour eating window, or even less, 4 to 6 hour eating window, then that's going to take a lot of stress off the liver. So it's going to allow it to process and heal better. So anyways, those are things that we need to do. We need to avoid environmental toxins as much as possible, because those things will burden the liver. So avoiding those things can be really, really, really important. Getting a lot of vegetables in, dark green leafies, things like that, can be really, really helpful for the liver. So a lot of good nutrients in there too. All right, let's see. Number 6 is smart supplementation. So smart supplementation, we want to make sure that we're using the right supplements, okay? I wouldn't recommend going out to Sam's Club or Walmart or some sort of, typical grocery store and buying supplements, okay? Not a good idea. You want to make sure you're getting ideally professional grade supplements, okay? Like the supplements that I carry and that I use with my clients, they've all been third-party tested for purity. So I always want to make sure before the batch goes out, that whatever's on the label is in there, okay, in an active, non-toxic form. So a lot of times supplement manufacturers will, they'll do testing in the beginning, and then sometimes they don't even publish the testing, and they kind of make up their own claims about it. But if they do testing, they'll create their nutrition label off of that, and then they won't test any of the batches. So they'll just assume if we use the same amount of ingredients, we're going to have this same amount of, this same nutritional data. That's not true at all. Creating nutritional data is a very selective system. And so this is why, as a professional that depends on key supplements to help sick people get well, okay, that I have to look at face to face, that are counting on me, I am going to make sure I have the highest quality supplements, the highest professional grade supplements. So anyways, that's just one thing to number one look at, is it should say professional grade on it. Should also make sure it says something like gluten-free, dairy-free, right? Things like that. So whatever food allergies or sensitivities you have, it should say that on there, that it's free of those things. So super important. Okay, corn-free, I think is another one that's common. Smart supplements when it comes to thyroid issues. Well, selenium and zinc are very important because they are two of the most important nutrients for converting T4 to T3, active form of T3. So definitely a good high quality selenium, zinc, glutathione boosting agents, also really important. That's going to be things like N-acetylcysteine. It's going to be things like alpha lipoic acid can be really helpful for the thyroid. Also like an acetylated form of glutathione. Curcumin can be really helpful. Omega-3 fatty acids can be really, really helpful. So those are all really great places to start. Probiotics, support for the liver. So like things like milk thistle. I know we have a product called Thyroid Liver Protect that has selenium in it. Okay, selenomethionine, which is really good for downregulating thyroid antibodies. It also has Milk thistle, again, to support T4 to T3 conversion. It's also got alpha lipoic acid and N-acetylcysteine, which support reducing inflammation in the body, and blood sugar, which is very important for converting T4 to T3, is good stable blood sugar and and basically enough glutathione levels. So very good. We also have another product called Thyroid Strong, and Thyroid Strong is actually thyroid hormone in a sense, right? So it's not a prescription based. However, it is a bovine based from grass fed cows, thyroid glandular. Okay, we also have some pituitary glandular in there. So again, brain thyroid connection. And that basically has T4, T3 in it. So it's got, the bovine glandular has those compounds in it. And the pituitary gland has the TSH. So it's going to help with the signaling process to produce these hormones, and it's going to help your body actually have the hormones. Somewhat similar to something like Armour thyroid. Okay, Armour thyroid is porcine based, so it's pig based thyroid hormone. And it is, been well tested, and thyroid, and you've got things like Nature Thyroid and Armour Thyroid, and all those are good. And I see a lot of clients that do really, really well with them. But I've also seen a lot of clients not do great with them. And so we use a Thyroid Strong, which has sea vegetable. It's got selenium in there. So it's got different minerals and different superfood compounds in there, trace mineral rich foods and herbs that are in that, as well as the glandular. So the bovine glandular. So people ask me, well, how do I take that? Well, number one, I would recommend, number one, making sure your problem is related to thyroid. Okay. Number two, what I would do is, if you are experiencing the symptoms we talked about, so cold hands, really cold body in general, weight loss resistance, you've tried diet, exercise, you're not able to lose weight, chronic fatigue, issues with constipation, really high cholesterol, things like that, and you're making these lifestyle changes and you're not seeing the results, you can try getting the Thyroid Strong. And I tell people, well, in the beginning, if you're not using it with a doctor, I would just take one capsule in the morning on an empty stomach, okay, kind of like you would take a thyroid medication. And I would just see what you feel, see how your body responds to that. If for some reason you feel a lot of anxiety when you do it, might be either overstimulating your thyroid, or for some reason you may have a strange sensitivity to one of the ingredients, all right? But you shouldn't feel that. You should actually feel like you've got a little bit more energy. Now, you may need more than that, so the normal dosage is 2 capsules in the morning. I just tell people to be on the safe side, start with 1 for 3 days and see what you notice. And if you're feeling good, right, or if you're feeling kind of like the same, not worse, then try adding in 2. Okay, and really I'll have clients go up to 4 capsules daily in the morning. Again, just looking out for any issues with anxiety, increased pain, racing thoughts, overheated, rapid weight loss. These will all be signs you're overstimulating your thyroid. So, or you're putting in too much thyroid hormone. So just look out for those. But that's a great product to use. And then vitamin D we talked about. And then one other one is our Pro Omega CRP. I love that product because it has high doses of EPA and DHA, long-chain fatty acids, long-chain omega-3 fats. And on top of that, it's got curcumin in a form that's easily absorbable, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, so really good for downregulating inflammation. It's also got N-acetylcysteine in there, and a reduced form of glutathione to support glutathione pathways. So anyways, great product there. So those would just be a couple things. Now, as a clinician, I don't just, because somebody has a thyroid problem, necessarily always put them on one of my thyroid support supplements. Typically, I'm going around a process where I'm trying to balance out their blood sugar, support their gut, their digestive system with maybe enzymes, things like that, and then possibly jumping in there with more thyroid support. So hopefully that is really helpful. Now, I know a lot of you guys are asking questions, which is awesome. Let's see. Crystal says, thank you. I will try to be there on March 3rd. Yes, again, I am doing a workshop. You're in the Atlanta area. I'm doing a workshop at my clinic, Exodus Health Center. It's a free training on healing your thyroid naturally. This is perfect for you, Crystal, since you've had issues. And I'm also actually doing a class on cancer as well at the end of the month, March 24th 4th, I believe. So look out for that one as well. Does chemo have negative effect on thyroid? Absolutely it does. Chemo is chemo is toxic. It's poison. So it's going to affect all the tissues of our body. It's definitely going to affect the thyroid in a negative manner, especially if you have a pre-existing condition. So one of the unfortunate realities is, if you're choosing to go the chemotherapy way, it can at times be effective, but the reality is that a lot of other tissues are going to be damaged with it. So that's the unfortunate thing. Now, I do have an article on things to do if you are doing chemotherapy. So if you go to drjockers.com, find the search box, type in chemotherapy, you'll actually see a few articles that I wrote about things to do to make sure you're not being affected by the getting a little tired here for some reason, not being affected by the chemotherapy. So that's important. It's important to understand how to do that. And nutrients can really be supportive as you're going through the process, as well as a really healthy diet. So super important. A lot of doctors will say if you're on chemotherapy, come off all the supplements. Not true at all. I talk about it in that article. Okay, let's see. Shara says, is it normal for your body to heat up and sweat a lot when you start taking vitamin D? Not necessarily, but it may be improving your thyroid hormone production, okay? Modulating some of your sex hormones, so maybe improving function as far as that goes. I think biggest thing would be the form of vitamin D, number one, and also making sure it's a good form. And also looking at your sex hormones too, and just kind of seeing what's going on with them too. All right. Amy says, does your company take major insurance? This is a great question, Amy. Unfortunately, insurance really only pays for medical care, okay? I don't do medical care. I do health and wellness promotion, right? So I help coach people to greater level of health. So unfortunately, insurance really doesn't care that much about your health other than just treating symptomatic disease processes through a medical route. So no, we don't use insurance at all. So unfortunately, that's not an option there. I think my clinic, we do like some personal injury if people are in car accidents and Medicare, but me personally, I don't work with clients personally through insurance. So if you're wondering about that. Okay. And really, if you're looking for a really great doctor to help you, particularly functional health, one way you'll know is that they don't work with insurance, okay? Because unfortunately, again, insurance will not pay for the right type of care. All right. Clara says, should everyone take glutathione? It really depends because some people are going to react, negatively in some cases. If you're a really sensitive individual, you may not take it at first. But ultimately, over time, I think everybody's going to benefit from supporting their glutathione pathways. So it just depends on the individual. It can be a case-by-case basis. Most people are going to do really well. Most of you guys listening are going to do really, really well with that. Okay, good. So let's see other questions. And we have a lot of them on here. Let's see. Connie says, oh yes, love my apple cider vinegar, turmeric, cinnamon, organic honey. Sounds like a good little drink. She's got a lot of great superfoods in there. Debbie says, let's see, bad if your vitamin D level is too high. I was when tested. I cut back. I supplement because living in Minnesota, I'm more prone to kidney disease or kidney stones. Yeah, so if your vitamin D is up over 100 nanograms per milliliter, then I would recommend just coming off of it. So, and it depends. For every week that you come off of it, your levels are going to drop about 10 to 15,000 IUs. So if you just come off of your vitamin D altogether, and let's say you're at 102 or something like that, and you've been taking 10,000 IUs a day, you just come off of it for a week and then go back on it, but only take 5,000. Okay, so hopefully that helps. So you take a lower, more maintenance dosage, but you come off of it for a week. Now, if you come off of it for a month and then go on to 5,000, I think you'd be fine as well. All right. But again, about a week, you can drop 10 to 15,000 unless you're consuming a lot of vitamin D, like a lot of organ meats and egg yolk, and particularly grass-fed egg yolk. Let's see, cod liver oil, things like that. Unless you're consuming it, then your levels are going to drop like that. Or if you're getting out in the sun, So in the wintertime, like in Minnesota there, if you come off of it for a week, you're going to drop 10 to 15,000. A month, probably somewhere between 30 and 50,000. Or I'm sorry, yeah, a month you would be 30 to 50,000. My math is right. So, but apparently I did make a error there, right? It says heat your gut and liver. And so I apologize for that, guys. I don't actually mean heat it. I mean heal your gut and liver. So Debbie says she doesn't want to heat her gut. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We don't want to heat up the gut, but instead we want to heal the gut and liver. So great. All right, so guys, it is 12:16 here. I'm going to need to jump off and get my workout in. But it's been a great broadcast. And again, one more reminder, I am doing a workshop Saturday, March 3rd, 12 p.m. at my clinic, Exodus Health Center. So if you're in the Atlanta area, you are invited. This is a free training. If I've never met you before, I would love to meet you. And I think that it's going to be really helpful for somebody that's looking to improve their metabolism, their energy, and their thyroid health. So if you're in the area, definitely come out to that event. Nothing like an intimate environment to really get this information down. And you can also ask questions with me in person there. If not, if you're not in the area, stay tuned to these Facebook Lives. I'm trying to do, 1 to 2 of these every single week. And we'll be covering many different topics. And also, you can always check the replay as well on my YouTube station. So check that out. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube station so you don't miss any of the latest content I'm putting out. And also, make sure you're checking in on these Facebook Lives. God bless you guys. Hope everybody has the very best weekend. God bless.